Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I want to talk about the topic of credibility and how important it is when we're going through this to be able to maintain our credibility through this so that way when we say something, it's believable. One of the key things I think you need to know is that as soon as you lose your credibility with the court, with family and friends, with coworkers, with anybody, your message becomes completely ineffective. And it's a really tough thing to gauge, and it's a really tough thing to control yourself on because it's so damn emotional. You're so freaking stressed about all this. You know, you want to scream from the rooftops about what's going on, but you have to be effective about this. Now, we've talked in the past about how a narcissistic person has an advantage on this because they're not necessarily emotionally invested in what's going on. They're able to detach and watch what's going on, watch how, when they're communicating with somebody, how it's being perceived, what's happening, and then in real time, they can adjust what they're saying. It gives a narcissistic person a tremendous advantage when they're trying to manipulate people and they're trying to control the narrative because they're not coming at this whole thing from an emotional state. Whereas you more than likely are absolutely coming at it from an emotional state because it's very emotional, it's your life, you're very stressed and worried about it, and you have a hard time communicating. It is critically important. I cannot stress this enough. It is critically important that you are able to calm yourself down, slow yourself down, think about what you're planning to do next so that you're not tricked or baited into making a colossal mistake. And this is really tough. I mean, this is not something that is easy to do. And a lot of times you don't even realize you're making the mistake until it's too late. Or if you really aren't prepared to understand this, you can be just you can be in a situation where you've torpedoed yourself completely and you just don't know why. And it can really boil down to the fact that you've lost credibility, that the way you've communicated, the way you've addressed things, people are looking at it, they're trying to gauge in real time what's going on, and you come across ineffectively, and they think that maybe what the other person is saying is true. Maybe, you are unhinged. Maybe whatever the narrative is that they're trying to portray is legitimate. It's critically important, I know I've already said this, but to slow yourself down, to make sure you are deliberately thinking about what's going on. During my situation, I caught myself quite a few times to where I'm like, oh crap, nobody's really understanding what I'm saying. They're not getting it. I'm trying to communicate this message. I'm trying to let people know they're not getting it, and this is getting nowhere. And it's a really, 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 really tough situation when you're in that mode because it can actually make things worse. I made a video the other day talking about basically dealing with the paranoia, and that's what happens is you start feeding into that fear. It amps everything up and it makes things worse. Now, the next part about this is jumping to conclusions. I had a recent example of this where some information came out about one of my kids, and I wanted to respond. I wanted to make a decision because I basically believe what I was hearing. But fortunately, I was able to calm myself down, think about it, and say, look, there's no reason to respond as if what I'm hearing is true until it actually happens. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but fundamentally what it is, I think, is the ex was thinking something was going to go a certain way. The kids were basically feeding into that, giving her that attention, so to speak, and it would have been hurtful for me. And there was a thought about making decisions based on that being true and saying, well, okay, fine. If that's the way it's going to be, then I'll make these decisions. And I waited. I slowed myself down and I'm like, you know what? I don't need to react today. I can wait. I can wait to see what the final outcome is. And to be perfectly honest, it hasn't completely played out, but just from what I've been able to gather so far, had I responded the way I viscerally felt I needed to, I would have created a whole another level of problems. I would have basically fallen into the trap, made decisions that were counterproductive what I was trying to do, and it ultimately would have hurt my credibility. And I know that's a little vague, and I hope that I can leave it at that, and that makes makes enough sense. The thing is, we all need to vent. We all need a trusted ally that we can talk to, and we could say the things that nobody else should hear, okay? You need to think about how you're communicating with people and make darn sure that certain things you say in complete private to your therapist, to a trusted friend, in an environment to where you can release the anger and the bitterness and the frustration and not have it negatively affect your situation. I think it's really important that you realize that. And God, it's tough. It really is tough. When you're in the midst of this, you're running on pure adrenaline. You're just completely stressed and frustrated. You're wanting something to change. You're tired of jumping through flaming hoops and feeling like you're the only one who's having to really deal with this. It can really put you in a bad emotional state. Rightfully so. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't have a right to feel that way, but it's a trap. It's a trap when you get in that mode, and then if you make the mistake of responding, then they're going to sit there and go, right there. That's what I'm talking about, that response. And most of the time, I'd probably say 80% of the time, nobody's going to look at it and give you a pass saying, oh, well, you're going through a rough time. Of course you're acting like this because of everything that's happened, because a lot of people don't see it. All they see is somebody who is falling right in with the narrative of what the ex is saying. You're playing your part to justify their narrative, and it undermines like I said, it undermines your credibility, your position, your argument. And as soon as that happens, as soon as you get into that mode, it makes things so much harder, because now you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole to convince people that you're not. I know it's tough. You kind of need to take a playbook from your narcissistic ex to where you're able, just detach a little bit, get a hold of your emotions just a little bit so that you don't fall for the bait. You don't fall for the trap, or you don't take the bait and you don't fall for the trap. What I'm hoping is that by hearing this message, you can keep that little voice in the back of your mind. And then when something happens, maybe you'll hear me saying, don't take the bait. You know what I mean? To where you'll be like, oh crap, this is what's happening. I see it. I saw that video talking about this. I need to take a breath. I need to take a breath. I need to recognize what's happening. I need to go, okay, I'm being provoked. I need to calm down. Or the second part of that is you're talking to someone and you're getting all emotional and you're talking faster and you're going louder and you're getting more animated and they're kind of like, their eyes are getting big and they're kind of backing away. And you have to be in that moment looking at what's going on to go, oh crap, I'm basically undermining my own position. I'm making, I'm making myself look completely unhinged, completely over emotional. And that'll crush your thing, crush your position. Not that we need to be chasing a lot of people trying to convince them, but we don't need to be making it worse. I'm here to tell you right here, I did my own part in making it worse. It's one of those things. It's hard. It's really hard. You're so not blinded, but you're so just flabbergasted by what's happened that you talk to everybody because you're like, this just can't be real. And you're looking for other people to go, holy crap, that's terrible, for validation. Get your validation in the narcissistic abuse recovery communities. Get your validation here on this channel, in the Discord server, find a Facebook group, whatever. Do something to where people who understand, who you can vent and talk to, preferably not publicly. Facebook's a dangerous place to do that at. So that you have a mechanism to communicate those things. But then when you're interacting with people who are like outside observers of this and don't really know, they're not looking at you basically losing your mind and becoming unhinged and potentially siding with your ex, potentially, providing information to say, well, I think think so-and-so is not really doing real well. Maybe they shouldn't have the kids. Maybe there should be a restraining order. Maybe they need mental help, all that type of stuff. I know all this is tough. I know that the message can be very depressing. But I think if you get a handle of this early on in the process, you understand what's going on, you understand what's happening and what they're doing, what's effectively being done to you, you can start to make decisions and choices that are more deliberate on your part, that are more strategic on your part, so that you minimize your own mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes, so that's just a given, but minimize them so that you don't undermine your situation. I'd love to hear what you think about this. This is kind of a off-topic video. I'd like to know if this makes sense, if you understand the concept of this and how you could implement it, maybe how you have implemented it. If you know somebody who's struggling and can use this video, please consider sharing it with them. Maybe it could help them not make as many mistakes. And on that, I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.